Hello, today we'll start in Proverbs 28:1 that says, "The wicked flee when no one is pursuing, but the righteous are bold as a lion." What does it mean to be bold as a lion? I think of David, who took on Goliath, and we think of him confronting Goliath directly, but his boldness was demonstrated even before that point. So we'll pick up by reading from here in 1 Samuel 17, starting in verse 26. It says, "Then David spoke to the men who were standing by him, saying, 'What will be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should taunt the armies of the living God?' The people answered him in accord with his word, saying, 'Thus it will be done for the man who kills him.' Now Eliab, his oldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger burned against David, and he said, 'Why have you come down, and with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your insolence and the wickedness of your heart. For you have come down in order to see the battle.'" So here we have the confrontation of David's brother Eliab with David, and here his boldness is demonstrated. He's bold as a lion first to his family. In verse 29 it says, "But David said, 'What have I done now? Was it not just a question?' Then he turned away from him to another and said the same thing, and the people answered the same thing as before." So David demonstrates here, again, not just the boldness he had to confront David, but to confront his own family and those that doubted him. It continues in verse 31, "When the words which David spoke were heard, they told them to Saul, and he sent for him. David said to Saul, 'Let no man's heart fail on account of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine.' Then Saul said to David, 'You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth, while he has been a warrior from his youth.' So again, here, the king himself tells David, 'You can't do this. You're too young. How could you fight against him? It's not possible.' David, again, in the boldness that he has like a lion, says to Saul in verse 34, 'Your servant was tending his father's sheep when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb from the flock. I went out after him and attacked him and rescued it from his mouth. And when he rose up against me, I seized him by his beard and struck him and killed him. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, since he's taunted the armies of the living God.'" So again, he demonstrates his boldness to his family, to the king, and even when he was a shepherd against these animals that threatened his sheep. In verse 37, it continues, "And David said, 'The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, he will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine.' And Saul said to David, 'Go, and may the Lord be with you.' David girded his sword over his armor and tried to walk, for he had not yet tested them. So David said to Saul, 'I cannot go with these, for I have not tested them.' And David took them off. He took his stick in his hand and chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook, and put them in the shepherd's bag which he had, even in his pouch, and his sling was in his hand, and he approached the Philistine." So again, boldness against his family, who doubted him, against the king, against the animals that threatened his flock, and lastly, he had the boldness, by faith, to approach the giant with just his slingshot, just those 5 smooth stones, because he trusted in the Lord and not in the convention of that time, putting on Saul's armor or his sword or anything like that. He was bold in his faith, and we can be too when we know how amazing and powerful God is. Take care.